Hi, hello everyone. My name is Lubomila. I am here to be guiding and leading again one of the sessions that we're doing on the path to net zero, where we invite experts and prominent figures from the sustainability sphere, but also practitioners from businesses who tell us actually how to tackle all the different challenges that are ahead of us and how to really be able to achieve net zero as businesses. Today, I have the great honor to be joined by Martin, who is a good friend, but also someone I admire for the work that he's been doing. He's been working on an incredibly complex solution in the energy sector for quite a few years now. And today, he will tell us really how we can navigate the transition towards clean energy. A bit about him before he joins us. Martin is the CEO of Kraftblock, a company that has been officially kicked off in 2014. He's also a responsible leader at BMW Foundation. This is actually the place where the two of us met, as both of our companies had been part of Respond, the first version of the accelerator of BMW Foundation. And his background is in chemistry and nanotechnology. He can tell us a lot more about all these exciting topics in a lot more detail. But with this in mind, I would love to welcome Martin to join me here on stage. Hi, Martin.
Hi, Lubomila. Really great to be here. And actually, I thought about of replaying your intro more and more because it sounds really great. Thanks a lot.
Oh, I'm so excited to be able to speak to you because I think in the busyness of all of our engagements, we haven't seen each other in a few months. And
Yeah, it's true.
that is a shame. And hopefully we'll be able to compensate in the coming weeks. But maybe kicking it off at the place where other people wouldn't have context.
Mm.
What is Kraftblock? Can you just give us a bit of context on the company that you're building?
Yeah, of course. Thanks a lot. So, Kraftblock, if I should put it in a technical way, we call ourselves a multifunctional high temperature energy storage system. But just forget about the technology at the moment. It's just Kraftblock in a nutshell. At the end, we developed the technology to decarbonize, especially industry, maybe in later stage also the private sector massively. Because I mean, everybody who's on this call or joining this podcast knows that there's a massive problem, especially with respect to heat. And heat is really an underestimated topic in the whole discussion. What's amazing to us, because more than 50% of the energy demand of a nation is heat and not electricity or fuels. So we decided if we can decarbonize this heat, whether it's process heat or heat during the electricity generation, something like this, we would have really a massive impact. And so really doing a large step in our race against climate change. So we decided to think about what is necessary to do these decarbonization steps, which means not only renewable energies, but you also need systems to buffer the energy. That's exactly what our thermal storage is doing, but in a way that it is quite flexible. So you can use, probably we'll talk later about this, you can use waste heat from industries, you can use renewables to produce renewable heat and replacing fossil-fired systems in the industry. So at the end, we build a system to decarbonize different industries.
Sorry, as far as I've understood through the years that we've been working together, or at least in the periphery of each other's activities, you essentially have an energy storage, then this is using this energy to be turned into heat, so power to heat element. Then it goes into your storage system. And then gets to be transferred and then gets to be used, processed by
Perfect.
whoever needs it.
Yeah, yeah.
Is this more or less the way we should think about it?
This is more or less the way it works, definitely. So, I mean, the decoupling of energy generation, energy usage is extremely important and definitely also beneficial in economic way, which is extremely important also for our customers. But that's the way it works. We take some energy source, might be waste heat coming from steel industry, put this in our storage, store it for a special time, and then deliver it back to the same process or even other processes. Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, but I think it'd still be useful just to explain why is it even needed to store energy. We've been using energy for everything that we do for a long time, and I think at the moment we're even with the energy crisis that we're experiencing now, still at the highest level of energy consumption that the human
Mm.
history has ever seen. What does energy storage have to do with us being able to satisfy the needs of the future?
Yeah. Storages themselves are really underestimated. I mean, we know it from the lithium batteries that we do have in our notebooks, our mobile phones, that we need something to buffer the energy to make it available when it's necessary. And that's at the end the same for industries, that's the same for private homes, especially if we try to move away from fossil sources like oil, gas, coal, towards renewable sources. Because very easy spoken, the sun is shining when the sun is shining and the wind is blowing when the wind is blowing. And what in between? How do I get the energy at this time? And that's why it's very important to buffer, especially excess energies, but also energy that is produced especially for the purposes of using it during the night or during no wind times. And for both, independently, whether it's electricity or heat or cold, you need a storage. And that's the device. Yeah, without this, it won't work.
Yeah, super interesting. And I think we'll get back to the topic of energy storage in terms of the importance it has, especially in the given context we have at the
Mm.
moment. I want to go back to where it all started for you. You studied chemistry, have a PhD in nanotechnology, which unfortunately, if you ask me, I cannot explain what exactly it is. Um,
Yeah.
can you walk us through your journey and how did it get to the point of being focused on sustainable energy systems?
Yeah, this was a quite, how to say, a journey with a lot of turning points or tipping points in between. First of all, I wanted to study chemistry because I want to know how it works. So not really earning money with chemistry, because I said, okay, being an economist or a lawyer is more interesting to earn some money. But once if you're dedicated to such a topic and you understand how it's working, how it's going on, you can't escape. So I stuck to chemistry. At that time when I started a couple of years ago, it was necessary to do your PhD to get a job in the industries. Like, I mean, we all know the big ones. So I also started taking a PhD. First of all, it should not be nanotechnology. I wanted to do it in pyrotechnology. So not the fireworks, but more fuels for rockets and things like that, because yeah, fire was always amazing. So energy at the end was always amazing for me from the very beginning. But because of some private developments, I was not able to do my PhD in the US in pyrotechnology. So I stuck in Germany. And I thought nanotechnology, that's the technology for the future. So at the end, nanotechnology is everything in very, very, very small. So thinner than your hair in order to do some effects. Fun fact at the end, so looking retrospectively to this topic, it already had to do with energy and energy usage. So what did I do at this point in time? I used UV light, so it's around you everywhere, and you're getting a nice skin color from it, a nice tan from it usually. I used this with a special nanoparticle to convert it to electrons, which then were able to kill some germs, viruses, fungi, and things like that. So the energy conversion was already part of my work at that time. But to be very honest, I hated thermodynamics at this point, and at the moment, it's nothing else I'm doing. So I started there. I ended up in a small company which was designing, developing. I guess somehow I'm going to. Yeah, now back again. Designing, developing smart coatings for steel and ceramics industry. So this was a very close point I had to the things I'm doing today. Because steel industry, ceramics industry, there's a lot of energy used, high temperatures, energy waste. And I saw what's happening there, and I thought, why can't we change it? And I think this was the funding stone, thinking about things I'm doing today.
Amazing. Such an interesting journey, and also one clearly defined by a lot of ad hoc decision making, not only
Absolutely.
by able to plan. Um, so You explained to us what exactly Kraftblock does. I think it has an incredible opportunity at the moment to solve
Mhm.
some really large issues. But when you went on this journey, what exactly were the aims that you wanted to achieve, and maybe where in the process of achieving those are you,
Yeah.
from engagement with industry perspective?
Mhm. The aims when we founded Kraftblock, so I founded together with my co-founder Susanne and started with a small team, especially for the materials development. At this point in time, we already thought about reducing emissions, greenhouse gases anyway, whether it's carbon dioxide, whether it's the nitrogen dioxide or methane. This is really the main purpose, and that's what is still today and probably also for the next 20 years, if not even longer. So we wanted to have an impact to help in the decarbonization, especially of industries. We decided for industries and not private homes because we said if we are able to convince one player in this market, we do not have to convince 100,000 private homes. So working together with industrial partners, yeah, it's difficult. It's long time until something starts. But if you can work with them, if they start to implement your system, you have a huge impact at once and do not have to wait for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. And that's what we want to do on the way where we are. Let's say, unfortunately, we are building hardware. So, I mean, you know it from yourself, software integration, it's complex, yes, of course, but customers even like to test it only if it's for 4 weeks, for 6 weeks. It's quite easy. Maybe they pay 10 euros every month for that. But a storage system, whether it's a thermal storage system, a battery system, it's massive hardware. It's like energy production plant, and it's not 10 euros each month. It might be 500,000 euros for the first pilot. These were the main obstacles. So the big invest with a technology that might work or even not, that's the hard point of our work. So we succeeded in getting above this. So we did have pilots in the ceramics industry, a quite nice system, which is requested, especially in Germany, very often, a mobile heat storage. So we charge in a small CHP, transport our container 10 kilometers away to release the heat in the hot water and a heating system of another industry partner, which is kind of 2-point district heating system, very flexible district heating system. Also there, this pilot was very successful. And at the moment, exactly in the middle of the pandemics, we decided to start commercializing our systems.
Yes.
It was a bit complex, but meanwhile, we have two very, very good contracts. One with a Tata Steel in India, where we do waste heat recovery system in their plant, will be in operation at spring next year. And another one, so if we would have our talks 2 weeks later, I could disclose who it is, but it's a huge project in the Netherlands, where we decarbonize the food industry. And was also, I
Amazing.
didn't expect that, but it's the largest project so far.
Amazing. This is super exciting, and I think it's really incredible to see your growth journey, because there's just been so many things that have happened since we were together at
Yeah.
Respond, and you raised a lot of funding. You also have been able to expand the team significantly, but also being able to achieve all this impact is really meaningful. Um, I think a key issue that we see also in the Green Tech Alliance, but in all the
Mhm.
discussions related to sustainability, I would say even in the popular media, there's a lot of discussion about the role that hardware needs to play. If
Yeah.
you look at the investor perspective, there's been historically a lot of focus on software and a bit of a concern on putting money into hardware. You're funded by investors that are really
Mhm.
prominent, not only in Germany, but also internationally. Can you explain to us, on one hand, why did you focus on hardware? It's clearly aligned, of course, to your mission, but why is this important? And why do not only investors, but also the general public and industry need to understand the importance of hardware on their decarbonization journey?
Yeah, I really like this question because it's extremely essential, not only for us but for the whole energy system. I mean, there are a couple of scientists saying that we are living in a simulation ourselves, so software might solve all of the problems. But at the end, if we are honest, software can only solve the problems that are built on a hardware basis. So you can optimize the hardware, you can shift energies from left to right, or doing things like that. maybe also having impact on your whole supply chain, reducing the emissions over there. But at the end, energy is produced physically in the real world with hardware, whether it's a wind turbine, whether it's a PV cell, or it's the old coal-fired power plant. That's hardware. So hardware also is the handling partner for all this energy. In other words, if we do not develop and not integrate a new type of hardware, which will take the whole energy system to the next level, then we might optimize it by software for the next 10 years, maybe 15 years, but then it's succeeded. So we built a new hardware, and then in combination with software, we can take really huge steps. From an investor perspective, you already said it, it's quite funny, in my opinion, at the end. I can totally understand why investors love software, because scaling is not that complicated than scaling hardware projects. But usually I'm talking about the fact you develop your software, maybe 1 year, maybe 2 years, you optimize it, you have your first customers, but you have also a very strong competition that is securing quite fast if they see, oh, wow, this is a system that's alive and it's gaining more and more attraction to the market. So probably in the software industry, you are more forced to innovate permanently and maybe also disrupt your own system to come to the next level and keep you at the very forefront of the developments. So you can scale fast and have this nice hockey stick extremely fast. With hardware, it's a little bit different. Hardware takes a long time, a lot of invests till it's developed, but usually there are not that many competitors in this market. So especially for our, let's say if we talk about the high temperature range for us, we see 3-4 competitors worldwide, but that's it for really huge market. So if you do not really fail in your developments, you will have your share of this market. It's a little bit later, not like 2, 3, 4 years, more like 8, 9, 10 years. But then if we have implemented this system, if it's known to the market, proof of concept and all this stuff, you can scale exactly this system, nothing else. And this system usually can be used or scaled for the next 15, 20 years without a new innovation or new development. That's not our final goal, but the hockey stick for hardware is coming really later, but it will definitely come.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. And I really appreciate what you just said about the transformation of our energy system.
Mhm.
It's not going to be possible without hardware. And I really hope that more and more people really understand this. Um, we have a really exciting audience on LinkedIn. There's over 100 people watching at the same time now. It would be great if we get as many questions as possible. I think this is an exciting topic. We already have quite a
Mhm.
few, but just encouraging everyone to add their questions in the comments, and we'll pick them up in the second half of the discussion. Moving on to the more kind of, I would say, current need of the products that you're developing. So our economy has been shattered by one event after the other. It has been COVID, it has been now the Ukrainian
Yeah.
war. And of course, this has led to a lot of disturbances because our economic model does not account for what does sustainability mean, what does true cost of the actions that we take, what building our industries mean. And for this reason, also, there's been a massive surge in the energy prices. So you have a lot of depth of understanding of what is the value of the renewable energy sources, but also about storage, about securing energy, not wasting. And there's been a lot of wasted energy, especially in the older models of how energy has been traveling throughout the system. Um, can you give us a bit of a view of the current market? Are we doing well? Are we transitioning to renewable well? Do you feel like there's a big pickup for demand for your product? And what do you, and maybe we stop here, and then I have quite a few follow-up questions because this is so exciting to learn, given the depth of knowledge you have on the topic.
Thanks. Just wanted to ask how many time we have for these topics. No.
7 hours. Friday is still
Oh,
early.
perfect. That should be enough to get a high-level overview. No, just kidding. No, in fact, I mean that's really sad what is happening in Europe at the moment, especially with respect to the Ukrainian crisis. But it gave the shift to renewables, the transition to another energy system, a massive boost. So we see it, especially for the inbound requests from customers. Just to give you an example, At the beginning of this year, these were 9, 10, 12 every month. And starting from May, June on, these were more than 30, still growing. So the demand for products like ours to decarbonize, and I mean, we do have, of course, competitors, but it's perfect if customers also buy their systems because we need the impact. So I do not say just buy our systems. We have to use everything that's available on the market. That's really massive. So especially in Germany, Europe, I think this crisis also gave a boost. Actually, at the end, it's the economics for most of the customers. Gas prices are increasing, carbon dioxide fees are coming on top of it. Renewables are coming more and more into the market and should get cheaper in their production. So you already now, in a lot of cases, do have a very good competitiveness of replacing fossil systems against green electricity, green heat already today, and is getting better and better at the moment. So the biggest lag at the end is just the production of the renewables. We do have 2 less wind turbines, we do have 2 less PV, we do have 2 less support, let's say, from the European countries, which of course have to build those systems by their own first. But we have to increase the production capacity much faster than we did it right now. If we can do this, then I'm convinced at the end the electricity from renewables will get even more interesting for the industry customers. If you take a look at the prices in Germany at the moment, I think it's between 3 and 6 cents per kilowatt hour you pay for green electricity, roughly 15 cents per kilowatt hour for nuclear electricity, and for coal it could be even higher. So already today it's getting extremely interesting, and we know systems from the US that are producing green electricity for 0.5 to 1 cent per kilowatt hour. So this should not be the big problem, but we need the capacity.
Absolutely, yeah. And it was really interesting, actually. I was this week in New York for the UN Climate Week and the UN General Assembly, which I did not participate with the other presidents of the world, but definitely was able to benefit from the side events. And there was a professional from your industry who essentially said that he is an investor actually in renewable energy, and he said that he has gone now to all of his investments in Australia that have a mix of renewables and also fossil fuel based energy sources, with the ultimatum that they have 1 year until they fully transition their capacity in renewables. And if they don't do it within a year, he is shutting down their whole operations because they're heavily dependent on his investment. The guy has, like, I think close to a 50 billion under management. So it's encouraging to know that this is also the approach that some people in your industry are taking.
Yes. I think especially those guys we need in the industries. We need also the CEOs, the CFOs of the utilities of the big corporates, not always thinking about how do I manage my next 4 years the best for my shareholders, but how can I manage it the best for the company and for the further development of the company in future. And I think what you described is exactly the view we need, is that somebody says, okay, guys, come on, we have to go this direction. Either you do it or we just shut down your plant, and then you can see what will happen next, or even not. That will be a massive support, definitely.
Yeah. And what was really interesting when he was speaking was the fact that he had done the calculations in terms of money. He actually is an investor. So for him, the return on investment is what, of course, matters. And essentially what he said is that for him, it's not economically feasible anymore to continue supporting fossil fuels with the surge up and down in prices, whereas renewables have a lot more predictability because they're a lot more decentralized and they don't relate to any political and other maybe transactional and transitional risks. I think it would be great to hear your view on the part that needs to be played by energy storage in democratizing energy. We've been covering up until now the fact that energy is now becoming more sustainable, and also renewables are starting to hit prices which are accessible for many. What is the part that energy storage needs to play in this whole democratization of the energy sector?
Yeah. At the end, it's the same part when we spoke at the very beginning of our talk. especially to democratize energy or renewable energy, we need the storages, because then you can put all the excess energy that you have produced into a storage and use it, which means you do not have to pay for let's say potential existing energy, but that's not delivered to the customer, even if it's a private home at the end. And renewable resources give us the big chance also to have a decentralized energy system, not like it is at the moment, centralized and planned very, very strongly, especially in Germany. But decentralized solutions will, be a big influence factor for the democratization process, in combination, of course, with these storages. You have to store the electricity. For example, there are a lot of communities also taking a look at PV, not only to wind energy, but also to PV. And PV, you do have the problem, sun shines on day and not during the night. But mostly you need the light in the night and your refrigerator and your AC and all this stuff. So you have to buffer it. And if you do buffer it, you stretch the energy from, let's say, 8 hours a day to 24 hours a day, which means it will get cheaper and so more or easier to subsidize or easier to distribute to everybody, even to those who would not afford this typically.
I want to pick up on this last word that you are saying, those that cannot afford it. Typically, at the moment, one of the biggest concerns, and we don't need to get into the political discussions, is that autumn is going to be incredibly difficult alongside, of course, winter for many communities that cannot afford the new energy prices. How do you, and if there's any practical examples you can give on where energy storage systems are used to support this democratization and also the reduction in prices. Can you give some examples, or do you have some ideas, even on a theoretical level, how this can happen?
No, unfortunately, I can't give some examples. Maybe there are a few examples, but not from Germany, respectively Europe. It's more like Australia, where they are using, for example, the Tesla storages to keep a stable grid at the end, which is also part of democratizing energy to the customers. That's very essential. Today, definitely, we might have a small problem in autumn, in winter, maybe also next year and the year above. But there are a couple of technologies, but not only technologies, but also packages to keep this or minimize this risk of suffering on energy leakage or something like this in future. But this is the big point of storages. You produce your energy, you store it. Just think about hot water storage for district heating systems. So a lot of communities are collecting heat by thermal systems during the summer, store it in the hot water storage, and then they pump the hot water from the storage to their district heating system in the winter. That can be done with each type of storage. Longer, shorter, different variations. There are a lot of niches where you can use different storage systems to have exactly this effect. And this will definitely help might be the crisis or democratizing the systems.
Amazing. Thank you so much for this context. And I'm kind of continuing on the this transition moment in which we are. What is at the moment the biggest challenge that we have that is blocking us on this transition? Clearly, and you gave a lot of examples, not only of your system with Kraftblock, but also other systems that exist that can be implemented at scale. What is at the moment the biggest challenge for the shift to renewables to really happen?
I think the biggest challenge, in my opinion, at the end is politics and regulations, because we have to follow the laws. But if the laws are not changing, but sticking to, let's say, the time when they have been developed 30, 40 years ago, we do not have any chance, even if there are a lot of technologies that would help already today. But we have also to change these regulations, and especially the process on how those regulations are built have to be much faster, because technology development today, it's ultra fast, and it will be faster even in future. But the politics and the laws are just something like a sailing ship compared to a modern rocket at the moment. They take time, a lot of discussions, even more time, and then 5 years, 6 years, 7 years are gone. And in those years, you already could have massive impact using present technologies. So this is one point. We have seen at least the change in the mindset, especially of industries. That was extremely amazing for us. When we talked to a couple of our customers today, 2-3 years ago, when we built the relationship to them, I said, okay, let's think about a small pilot, 10 megawatt hour system in this plant or that plant. Nowadays, we offer the pilot in a first step, but there's no time doing pilots. We have to go to full scale right now because we have an urgency. We have to do it. So let's say from market perspective, the market is prepared. The customers are willing to take more risks with new technologies, which is quite strange for Germany, especially. There are a couple of more countries which take more risk, more product risk, but I think this change in mindset, Germans often like to look on risk and more risk, and how can we mitigate those risks? And there are other countries who are saying, I see the risk, but I can see the efforts, I can see the contribution in the future. So why shouldn't I test it? Why shouldn't I operate such a system? And this bit change in mindset, I think, driven from economic sources or economic reasons, we also see now here in Germany and a lot of in European countries.
Yeah, this is really exciting. You say because it feels to me like, as much as we see a lot of obstacles, if there's only one stakeholder that is not aligned, that means that there's a lot that are aligned. So
Yes.
businesses are demanding it. There's the technology solution providers like you. There's of course the citizen and community
Yeah.
alignment around the fact that we need to transition to these more affordable and accessible and decentralized models.
Mhm.
So eventually, I would be sure that politics are going to move. And as we know, quite often, if politics don't move, the other stakeholders are able to jump the gun and
Yeah.
skip some.
Definitely. I mean, this is always the discussion of if you're building a regulation, will you open it to the market? So will this solution, which fits the market best, be the solution for the future? Or on the other hand, politics decide, okay, now we have to go for hydrogen, now we have to go for wind power, now we have to go for, don't know, pumped hydro storages. In my opinion, the other way, leaving it to the market to solve this problem, leaving it to technology, would be the better, because there are a lot of technologies available. The customer can select. Politics just should give the frame in which all those works, guarantees, and all the things should be done.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much for this elaborative answer, because I think it gives context to people of what steps need to be taken, also from each one of us, in order for this to scale. And one of the most concrete ones, given we are doing a live on LinkedIn, is really businesses to start thinking about using systems like yours as well.
Mm.
Um, so again, well, I think we have spent quite some time talking about energy, about the adoption of the product that you have. What it has been, I think, maybe not covered enough
Mm.
is really, where do we see the biggest opportunities, which maybe at the moment are not even considered? Because you were speaking about the transition of the energy sector, and the first step of this transition is really for us to switch to these renewables,
Mm.
and kind of find ways to store them, to access them at scale. Um, what do you see as an exciting opportunity that goes beyond just the mandatory shift that needs to happen, given three-quarters of the greenhouse gases at the moment are coming from the energy sector? Um, Maybe this is kind of a thinking wide and big, and for the decades to come.
Yeah.
But where do you see the opportunity for your work beyond the transition?
I think we just did a very, very small step to support this transition today. But as I said, there are a lot of technologies already existing today where we can do a huge progress in a very short time. Of course, there have to be further development, whether it's producing electricity itself, producing heat, producing alternative fuels. Don't know if electric cars will be the future, or hydrogen-driven cars, or what else it is in the future. But it's just a look today. But what should happen in 50 years? What should happen in 100 years? That's really the big question. And I think Starting from technologies like fusion, we can discuss positively, negatively about that, but it's an opportunity, of course. So we have to take a look at it. We have to try to control it. I was kidding with my team some month ago, and I always bring this example. Say, okay, why do we not think about of building a plasma tunnel to the sun, storing the energy on the moon, and transferring to the Earth? So you have to be creative. You have to get to crazy ideas to come to a realistic point that might help the future. I mean, we see today, especially in research labs, also a couple of startups that are very well known to us, that they try to build PV cells that converting heat into electricity. So let's say easy example, you have a volcanic breach at the moment, you have hot lava. So you could take this PV cell to produce electricity just from the radiation of the lava. Amazing. You can put it, of course, in different technologies in the future, but I think that's the way how it goes. So what I think that's very important, and we should have learned from the past, is to think the whole system through. So really from cradle to grave at the end, because we can today estimate what will be the influence of our technology in 10 years, in 20 years. There are enough models to predict it, but often it's not taken into account. And that's, I think, a big issue, because we could foresee nowadays, I love wind power, but there is still not really a system to recycle the plates of the wind turbines. So I think in Germany this year we do have 45,000 tons on wind turbine plates that have to be deposited because there is no recycling system. We could have thought about this 20 years ago when wind industry starts. And that's the issue I see. So we have to take a look on the whole life cycle when we develop new technologies. But then I think there will be amazing things.
Yeah. I think it's so important that you mentioned this. Actually, I was speaking only a few days ago with someone that was telling me about all the rare earth metals that at the moment are absolutely inaccessible. And in order for us to do the whole renewable energy transition, there's just so much mining that also needs to happen that is not always the best for our ecosystem. So the combination of consuming less, storing, and also being able to, as you say, be creative about the way we find even energy will be key in order for us to really move to a transition to a sustainable future. But also uh, think of these moonshot ideas that actually become reality. Because if we think about it, and I'm assuming you think of Kraftblock in this way, probably like if someone asked you 10 years ago, you wouldn't have been able to say that you have these like crazy huge storage
Totally. Yeah.
boxes in the middle of Germany, which now are powering companies like Tata and others.
Yeah, that's true. No, I totally agree to that. And we definitely, as I said, we need those crazy ideas. I mean, there's a potential to produce electricity using your clothes while wearing it. So you can charge your mobile phones just wearing your clothes or your shoes. Why not thinking about that? Why always thinking about the big solution? There might be hundreds of small solutions with the same effect, but we have to come there.
I bet there's a lot of Gen Z listeners who are excited by the idea of wearing clothes that can charge their phones. And it tackles two issues at the same time, being cool and also always with a phone in your hand. I think we now need to move to the questions from the audience because there's quite a few of them, and we have 20 minutes left. The first one is actually focus on waste heat. The question is, can you explain what is waste heat and how do you utilize it at Kraftblock?
Yeah, of course. Waste heat, you can define this type of heat as waste heat. So with a negative touch, you can define it positively as an excess heat. We love to say waste heat because it's more dramatic at the end than excess heat. Excess sounds, oh, there is enough available, so it's fine with the part we are using today. Now we say waste heat. What is waste heat? Waste heat, if you think about a process in the ceramics industry, you're operating large kilns, large furnaces, you use gas, sometimes electricity to produce heat that is able to calcine, to burn your ceramics, your plate, for example. Only a part of the energy that you produce is going into the product itself, roughly 50 to 60%. 50 to 40 or 40 to 50% are just stuck in the flue gas that is going out of the chimney. So this is what we call waste heat. You have produced heat once, but you throw it away at the moment. So the basic idea is to say, okay, there's an incredible resource of a couple of, in Germany, the BBES just made a study and found out that these are 120 terawatt hours of waste heat for high temperature processes for Germany alone. So if you think about what's happening all over the world, how many waste heat resources are there? Steel industry, ceramic industry, glass industry, cement industry, oil and gas industry, all those flare gas stacks burning around, it's waste heat. So if we can reutilize this existing heat, we can make a huge step. And that's what we call waste heat recycling. Try to recover this waste heat out of the process, store it, give it back to the process, because then you need less primary energy like gas or oil to fire the process, because you use the already existing heat by burning those fuels. And so you also do have an impact, maybe not 100% decarbonization, but maybe 30, 40% with a quite easy step.
That's quite significant. Thank you so much for explaining this. There's a sustainability professional that I think you also know, Andy. Andy is asking about your view on quickly storage scaling. What is the effective way to scale and in order to replace especially gas as an energy source in order to balance the power grids?
Yeah, effective way to scale. Let's say the easiest one would be, for example, that companies like ours, or also our competitors, will say, okay, let's build a license model. Let's include the big corporates, the big equipment manufacturers worldwide to build those storage systems. Because at the end, beneath the integration at the customer side, that's pure engineering, but that's easy. We do have a lot of experienced engineers worldwide who are able to do that. At the end, it's limited also to the production capabilities worldwide for those storage systems. I think industries are learning more and more about the importance of those storage systems, and they're adapting it more and more in the future. So we have just to produce and integrate it.
Amazing. Now we move on to a question about thermal energy storage. So, what is the state of adoption, and is there a particular geography which is leading the way in this adoption?
Yeah, there is already an adoption, but more related to the, let's say, the well-known hot water storages. Usually, if we're talking about thermal storages, people directly refer to hot water storages because they are known since the 1950s, 1960s of the last century at the end. The energy system of Denmark, for example, there are a lot of those hot water storages already included, integrated, just to have the district heating system warm also in the winter times. And that's really a huge step. We have to come now to the higher temperature levels. And that's the point that's really missing. We know storages, these are molten salt storages, like used in the CSP, so concentrated solar power, the parabolic draft solar towers, which you can find worldwide. There, the molten salt systems as high temperature storage are used since the 1980s. So there is already a good status, but not in the very broad usage in industries, for example. We do have low temperature storage up to 300 degrees C, but higher than this, we're just waiting. I think we are, together with 2 or 3 of our competitors, we are the first who are doing this industrial integration of those systems right now. So the market is just starting for those systems, and it has to be implemented much faster, I guess.
Exciting times for you, I feel. And as you were saying before this call event, any 20 minutes that you can get are so important. So we know the demand. We have a really long question, but I'm just gonna summarize it in a little bit, kind of less of a space. So essentially, the question is about incentivization around adoption of certain more sustainable models and technologies. The comment is that Germany is reopening coal factories to decrease dependency on Russia. It feels like the whole country is moving away from its climate goals. And the question is, how do you incentivize industry to be using your systems? And what are the policies maybe that need to be enacted, or do you have some examples of anything that has been successful elsewhere?
Yeah, I really love this question. Unfortunately, there's a lot of truth in it. Um, there is already a lot of incentivization for storages like ours. Two points which I would refer to as unfortunately. Unfortunately, they usually refer again to hot water storages and not to other storage systems, but just hot water. So a lot of potential users do not know that there are other systems which they can support or subsidize with those means. This is one point. The other point is that just the application for those incentives is too complex. So you have to fill a lot of forms. You have to write reports and all this stuff. That's too much at the end. I mean, Australia has really a nice system. You can file for such an incentive as also as a pilot. You're doing the pilot. You are controlling the performance of the pilot for something like 1 year. And if it works out quite well, they directly integrate it into their regulations. And that's a quite easy way to move faster. So, but I think the bureaucracy in Germany, it's incredible. It's one of those who are just hindering people of using those incentives. One incentive I would like to see is, for example, we do have the EEG, the Erneuerbare Energiengesetz, which was perfectly to help renewables like wind, PV to come to scale and especially massively reduce also the prices. We need this also for other technologies. Maybe not like 20 years, what it's at the state, but like evaluating every 5 years how fast are those technologies. They're already on a level where we have decreasing prices, decreasing costs. Then we stop incentivizing this and go to the next stage, so that you have one pot of money which you use quite flexible. And this would help a lot of technologies to get cheaper and more coming into the market.
Yeah, also, I think it's important to mention here for those that don't have context that at the moment, the fossil fuel industries are heavily subsidized by different
Yes.
governments around the world. Someone was telling me, and maybe you have more details on that, of how at the moment, if you want to import solar panels versus importing gas, you essentially have to go through 5 times more legislative confirmations and documentation for solar
Yeah.
against for gas.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, unfortunately, this is also true. I don't know what reason is behind all this thing. Might be it's the old thinking, because this has been established. We know it quite well. We know how it works, and this we have to buy this from China. We have to buy this from there. Why should we do this and that? Might be a lot of internal concerns, or also we need a mind shift set also in our authorities. Otherwise, it won't work.
Final question before my final question, and this one is focused on captured thermal energy from industrial processes. Can this be used also for homes?
Yes, definitely. This is already existing systems. For example, steel plants from ThyssenKrupp in the Ruhrgebiet, they're already using a part of their waste heat to supply district heating to different regions. And this is, let's say, standard in those industries where district heating systems are available. We can and we should shift it also to the more rural areas and not only to the cities, where we could use other technologies. You do have biomass power plants, for example. Well, often they do not know where they should put their energy, their heat especially, to. They use the electricity, but not the heat. And for example, I mentioned this mobile storage, what we have as a pilot or had as a pilot and start now commercializing the system. This was exactly the reason. The owner said, we do have a lot of biomass plants in rural areas. We were not connected directly to district heating system. How can we utilize this wasted heat? And in this case, again, it's wasted heat. So we said, okay, let's move it from one place to another without any pipes, tubes, a static system. but a very flexible system. And this is how we can get also heat from electricity generation from different waste heat resources out of the industries to customers who are not attached to a district heating grid.
Fantastic. And then my final question, totally shifting gear. I've been observing on the outside how busy you have been, and also like how many achievements your company has had. How do you manage your time? What is your way of being so productive and consistent, expanding the team, being always on top, but keeping also a smile on your face as you always have? What's the secret sauce?
Okay, smile on my face. Yeah, that's nice. I think one source is my definition of optimism. You just jump from a skyscraper, you pass each floor and said, okay, I did it well. So sometimes I will hit the floor, I'm sure, but I don't know when. But my personal mindset to this. On the other hand, I do really have a great team with a lot of responsibilities which they are taking. And a big part of this team is operating independently from me. So, of course, we talk to each other, but they are self-organizing, which takes a lot of pressure from my shoulders. There are times, like at the moment, a lot of requests from industries. I will be in the US starting from Saturday on for 3 months, exact some weeks. So
Oh, wow.
also trying to build the markets over there. But parallel to that, we do have another funding round. So a lot of different points, but that's exactly the point I like, not always doing the same. So I could not sit there and stamp postcards every day. That's not what I like to do. And having this change in tasks, the change in responsibilities, seeing how the systems are growing, for me, it's energy pure. So that drives me. How do I manage my time? Good question. I try to get up late in the morning. So let's say being in the office at 8:30, I need my time in the morning. A nice breakfast, which is always good. Then, of course, meanwhile, I set in my calendar a focus time where I said, okay, 2 hours every day where I do not want to have any meetings. I just want to be free for internal discussions, going around, hanging about my own thoughts, which helps also a lot to structure and to minimize time losses at the end. Then, of course, going home, back to the family, spending a bit of time with the family. So that's my free time, my spare time, getting my mind, a reset for my mind at this point, and then maybe going back to the notebook at 10, 11 again and working for 2 hours. Beneath that, I definitely need sports. Without that, no chance, no way.
Amazing. Martin, it has been utter pleasure. It's always been fantastic to be able to exchange with you and to learn from you. I think you gave so many pieces of information that many people didn't have for this massive industry that at the moment is dominating so many people's minds. Good luck with all the big projects, and thank you again for taking time to speak to us today.
Thanks a lot for being with you, Lubomila. This was fun talking to you and exchanging about those topics everybody should know at the end. So happy of having the chance to talk about this here. Thanks a lot.
Have a good day.
You too.
I'll stay here for just a second because I would like to invite you all to the next session that we have. It was so wonderful to speak to Martin. I have so much appreciation for him for the years that we've known each other, and their company really has exploded. So you should definitely check out in the comments the link to their website. I would love to invite you to the next session for the one second. The path to net zero. I'm showing it very briefly. We have as the next guest the fantastic Anna Ott, who's leading all ESG topics in HV Capital. HV Capital, for full disclosure, is one of the investors of Plan A. We love working with them, but in the context of this meeting in particular, we're inviting Anna for a different reason. It's because of the leadership that she has demonstrated in the whole ESG industry, leading the whole, I would say, with confidence, kind of discussion but also a lot of the initiatives. She can tell us what it really means to be ESG aligned venture capital fund. What are the initiatives that they push on their portfolio? We can also speak from first-hand experience what this has meant for us as being on the receiving side. The discussion is going to happen next month. Join us. Thank you again for being here. And check out all the previous episodes of this wonderful series. We've been inviting a lot of meaningful people to the sustainability net zero discussion that will allow us to transition our whole economy to a more sustainable model. Thank you. Enjoy Friday and see you soon.